Kush and Chemtrails, the world's most dangerous podcast.
Hey, welcome back. It's Buck Ballsy.
And I'm Emmett Flores, another episode of Kush and Chemtrails.
Hey.
Episode number 10.
Big number 10.
A big dime.
Pop a bottle on it.
I got 5 on it, times 2.
Got him.
Yeah.
Cheers to that shit, man.
Yeah. Hey, cheers to, yes.
Stop you from doing what you're doing, huh?
Nah, it's all good,
Hey.
man. I already loaded the ball.
Number
Fuck
10.
yeah.
Congratulations to you for sticking with us through all this, man. And it's been a good journey, man.
Happy Halloween.
Oh, is it coming up?
It is.
I got the
Mañana.
colors. I got the colors on.
Mañana.
You know, I don't do
Dude, you
holidays.
look like Rainbow Sherbert in that shirt, dog.
You
I bet
like
your
that?
wife is going to eat you up,
She
dog.
is. I'm on my way,
This
girl.
fucking
I'm on
dude's a
my
player.
way.
He's a player.
Not like that.
He's a player.
I used to be. What's that song? I don't want to be a player no more.
I'm not a player. I just fuck a lot.
Yeah, it is. You know what it is.
Fuck yeah, dude. Big Punisher, bro. Super cool, dude. Fucking yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What'd you do this week, dude?
You know what we did? We kept growing and living and building and trying to make this pod better for our viewers. So
What was your best meal this week? Because I know you are a healthy eating motherfucker. Come on, shoot it.
my wife just made some shrimp pasta, and it consisted of like some squash. What else did she put in there? Probably
What consisted of squash?
the pasta.
No way.
The
Pasta made of squash?
No, the pasta's made of garbanzo.
Garbanzo beans.
Yeah, garbanzo
I love
beans.
garbanzo
yeah.
beans. I love them.
Chickpeas, yeah.
I love garbanzo beans.
And then the sauce is probably like some marinara that she probably concocted on her own. You know,
Great.
we got tomato plant at the house, which the caterpillars have been attacking.
Oh, shit.
So yeah, the shrimp pasta was on fire.
Oh, you guys
with-
grow
with
your
some
own
salad.
veggies too? You grow them?
Yeah, she grows kale,
wow.
squash. You know,
Kale?
chard.
Is that what you said?
Tomatoes.
Wow.
Some other things too that I can't think.
That's
of
why
right
you
now.
come in here glowing
Some
like
herbs
that, huh?
and some berries.
Fuck, dude.
Man, that's that coconut oil.
Oh,
Yeah.
buddy. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Our boy Larry Gators, I be watching Larry Gators. He was like, these brothers walking around smelling like shea butter. And like I said, it's funny how you get attached to these social media celebrities or whatever you call them nowadays,
Right.
influencers.
Mhm.
And then they say something that you disagree with, and you be like, ooh, it hit me deep. Because I was probably walking around smelling like shea butter when I was
Should've been
watching
like-
it.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, man, what's wrong with shea butter, man?
Yeah, it's funny till they mention you.
Exactly, right.
Like, what do you mean?
Shea butter's natural, man. I don't want to put all this Colgate stuff on me, you know.
You want to hear a funny
Procter
story
and
about
Gamble?
Colgate? You want to hear a funny story about Colgate?
Speak on it.
I was going to brush my teeth one night, and my mom had what I believed to be Colgate in the drawer, and it was a red tube, like just like Colgate, it said CO on it. And I grabbed it real quick, put on toothpaste or put on toothbrush, started brushing my teeth, and I was like, man, this tastes like shit. This is the worst, because my mom has like organic toothpaste.
Yeah.
So sometimes I can't tell if it's just some weird organic shit that is horrible. And I was like, damn, this tastes like lotion though, bro. And I went back and I grabbed it and I pulled it out of the thing and really looked at it. It was fucking cortisone.
And you was brushing your teeth with that joint?
Yeah, it
Damn,
wasn't
bruh.
Colgate.
You
It was
was on
CO Ortizone.
Oh,
Not
brother.
CO Gates.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, doggy.
Were you all right? You had to look that up on the...
Yeah. Hey, I tell you what, my gums were no longer inflamed. You know what I
For
mean?
sure.
Shout out
Sheesh.
to cortisone for that relief. I appreciate it. Was unintentional, but wow.
Oh, I thought that was the stuff for hemorrhoids.
Cortisone?
I'm just fucking
No,
with
that's
you.
preparation
I'm
H.
just fucking with you.
Hey, that's preparation H.
Yeah, man.
So I've
get
heard.
It right. Get it right.
So I've heard.
Oh, man.
Oh no.
Make it hard to sit on ya.
Hey, but
How you been, though, bruh?
man,
Before we get to going, you know?
I've been great, dude. I've been great. The kids are happy, healthy, and that's all I care about, dude. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's weird when you have kids. It's just for me. That's all I fucking care about. And I see my son's in here right now. He's helping out, and he just shook his fucking head.
Shout out, Johnny.
Shout out to Johnny, 26
What's up,
years old.
man?
And he's
Yeah.
shaking his head like that's not all I care
Been
about.
helping out a lot, man. Appreciate you, Johnny.
What else do I care about? Go ahead. You want to shake your fucking head over there, buddy?
Herb.
My mom.
Herb is your guy.
He's right. Okay, he's right. I care about my mom. Yeah.
Shout out to
What?
moms.
Yeah. Jesus Louises.
Sorry to bring up personal shit, bro.
Nah, I don't care.
Is that fair game?
Yeah, sure. You ready?
No.
Let's talk about your herpes. Is that fair game?
What they say, 1 in 5 have it, so I keep my herpes to myself.
Hey, the gift that keeps on giving.
There it is.
Herpes. Yeah. Get it in. And get it in.
Makes blunt smoking culture not so cool, huh?
A tale of epic proportions.
Amidst all this worry of the virus, I'm sure people are just smoking their own blunts now anyway.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of epics, we were talking about the Epic of Gilgamesh earlier this week.
Mr. Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh.
That sounds like an interesting epic. It's just the name, Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh.
I want to know how Gilgamesh's epic went.
Sounds like Gargamel's cousin. Remember Gargamel from the Smurfs? Gargamel and Gilgamesh.
Yep.
They're going to come kill the fucking Smurfs with Osriel and Israel.
That's exactly what it does sound like.
Right?
Damn,
Fucking
man.
weirdos.
This
But,
must be the shit.
Yeah, so we were talking a lot earlier this week, Buck and I, about ancient Sumerian culture.
Right.
And a lot of times with historians, with mainstream historians, everything stops with Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there was so much more before that.
They're obsessed with Egypt. Almost, yeah.
And I understand why. I
Got
get
an
it.
obelisk in D.C. Why?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
But, for people out there listening and watching on YouTube, the Sumerians are credited with the first known civilization with on recorded history.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm positive there was probably older civilizations at one point on this planet, but for modern recorded history, this is what we have.
Right.
The Sumerians had a supreme deity who was the chief of all their deities, and his name was Anu. And these beings that they not worship because it wasn't religious, it was just beings that they credited for creating them were the Anunnaki. And I first read about this about 20 years ago. David Icke has a book called The Biggest Secret, and I read about that for the first time. The Anunnaki, shape-shifting reptiles, the planet Nibiru. That was my first introduction. And then later on, I followed up with The 12th Planet by Zecharia Sitchin. And then he has a whole series of books based on the Anunnaki, and he spent decades translating these tablets.
You know what's so amazing is because me and you coming together is really something I think the deep state or the people in power really don't want, because you have a great wealth of knowledge, but you've been looking at it from a point of view, and I have some knowledge and I look at it from my point of view. And I think that's where me and you both gained each other's respect, because you were just dropping knowledge on me. And then one day I was like, bro, I've heard those same things, but more from an African tradition,
Right. Right.
So Billy Carson would be my reference and the books that he's written and Forbidden Knowledge, so, but it's great now because
Forbidden Knowledge?
That's what Billy Carson.
By Billy Carson.
Well, he has a website as well, and he has several books that he's
All right.
written.
Hey, people out there, Forbidden Knowledge. I've never heard of this, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
This is 2 podcasts in a row you've put me up on game. It was, what was the other one?
But
The
that's-
ISIS
but
books?
that's what I'm saying, though.
The ISIS Papers?
Yeah, the ISIS Papers by Dr. Francis Kress
Check that
Wrestling.
out.
Yeah.
The ISIS Papers.
And this one is the number 4, biddenknowledge.com.
I love it. I love it.
But yeah, that's what's dope, is because we can bring these different points of views together, and then we can both put together some of the parts that we may have overlooked. you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we've been not necessarily blind, but we've been kind of focused on not necessarily just our interests, but what we feel is affecting us. And then you see other parts to it, and you're like, God damn, this shit is bigger than what I've even imagined, And it helps you, because then you can really discern who. You shouldn't be looking at people as your enemies, and that's a trick. But go ahead, brother. I don't want to get us too far off.
No, I'm
course.
listening. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just my thoughts.
Brilliant. But the cool thing that I love about the the Epic of Gilgamesh, and Gilgamesh is a character in these ancient stories that the Sumerians had, and these basically, here's what happened. There was a significant amount of these clay tablets that they found in the late 19th century. Okay, and they credited these tablets to a civilization in Sumer, and the Sumerian tablets translated over time, and people realized that they talked about these beings known as the Anunnaki. Okay, now they also have this story, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Now the Epic of Gilgamesh is a story of, look it up for yourself. But in the Epic of Gilgamesh, and I say look it up for yourself because I want you to discern what it's about for yourself. I don't want to put any thoughts, no power of suggestion in your head. But there are 3 points actually that I found very interesting. The first was the Great Flood.
Right.
Okay.
A reoccurring theme.
Absolutely. So a lot of scholars, most scholars believe that the book of Genesis is taken from Sumerian culture.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they talk about the Great Flood, and
there's actually a flood tablet.
Yeah.
One of the tablets.
Sorry, I'm taking a
Some
hit,
of the
guys.
oldest written on record, which is why we say this is one of the oldest civilizations known to man.
Yeah. In case you're wondering why I paused, if you're not watching, I just took a hit of this backwards, so my apologies. So anyways, let me get one more hit off this motherfucker, and I'll keep talking.
For sure.
It's going out.
I was gonna just let the people know
do.
too. This is the area of Mesopotamia.
Mm-hmm.
When he said Sumer, which is modern day like Iraq, Kuwait, Syria, and the reason why I bring this up is because during my lifetime we've had a lot of conflicts in those areas, and it makes me think we've thought it was about oil all this time. This could be much deeper, like a religious thing.
It is
why
much
is
deeper.
it concentrated in Iraq, Kuwait, and Syria? And we've known in modern time
We've
had conflicts just in Syria right
Absolutely.
now. You know, so what's really going on?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
It
brother.
is much deeper. Another thing other than the Great Flood that they mention in the Epic of Gilgamesh is Sargon of Akkad. Akkad was a settlement within Sumer. There was different settlements in different cities, and every city was governed, looked after by a different deity. Sargon of Akkad, that story mirrors the story of Moses. He was placed in a basket, sent up a river. Do you know the story of Moses?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So he was placed in a basket. He's sent up a river, and he's not raised by a royal family, but he becomes. Let me hit that shit because it went out. He's not raised by a royal family like Moses, but he's a taste tester to make sure shit ain't poisoned for the royal family.
Wow.
Okay.
That's a fucked up job.
So, but you feel me though, and then eventually becomes the leader of Akkad. Just like Moses was the leader of the Egyptians or of the Jews, you know, out of the Exodus out of Egypt. Mm-hmm. So then one more thing, and this
He's the founder of most modern religions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Or the basis.
This reminded me
The
of
father? I don't know. See, I'm not a religious
It's all
guy.
good.
That's why I'm gonna let you speak.
It's all
bro.
good, but check it out.
I just do the history. I look at the Bible and these religious writings as historic, accounts to put in with these other historic
Absolutely.
accounts. That's the way I look at it. So I'm not as, caught up in all the stories like most people.
It's all good.
It's just about decoding. them for me.
Absolutely,
Go
that's
ahead.
what I'm about too, brother. The
But hit
hidden
it.
symbolism within that story.
Yeah, hit it, brother.
Like Jesus is the sun, and the 12 disciples are the zodiac signs, right? Mm-hmm. Every one of those disciples you can attribute to a different, like Pisces is a water sign. Well, that's directly attributed to John the Baptist because he baptized with water. You understand what I'm saying?
Facts.
There's a great book called The Christ Conspiracy. I think it was published about 1999. It's called The Christ Conspiracy, the greatest story ever sold. So check that out. Anyways, they mention in the Epic of Gilgamesh a spiky sea plant that rejuvenates life. What does that sound like to you, brother? A
Seaweed,
spiky,
maybe?
sea moss.
Sea moss
A spiky sea plant.
that rejuvenates
Life.
because a lot of the minerals are
Dr.
found in
Sebi.
the ocean.
Exactly.
Even like what
Right back to Dr. Sebi.
Iodine that's in the salt, sea salt, because that is very crucial for our diet, but we can't find it in a lot of foods. But go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. So trip on this. In Genesis 6:1-4. Check this out. This talks about the Anunnaki. All right. And this is taken from the Sumerian tablets. It's the same thing. And it came to pass when man began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of which they chose. There were Nephilim. Are you familiar with the Nephilim?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There were Nephilim in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into, meaning they nutted, they came into,
Right.
In unto the daughters of men, they bear children to them. Okay. They nutted, they had kids. The same became, these men, the same, became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. So this talks about angels basically mating with the daughters of man and
Right.
creating a super race known
Right.
as the Nephilim,
Correct.
giants.
Right.
And they found giant skeletons.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Goliath was supposed to be a giant.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And some of these people live for long lifespans. What, 900 years?
Bro,
400 years?
the Sumerians, okay, they claim that they lived anywhere from the Anunnaki from 50,000 to 500,000 years.
Sheesh.
Okay? And because of this long lifespan, they didn't, they didn't have a need to constantly evolve like mankind. Do you understand what I'm saying? Man is always
Right.
trying to improve himself.
Because we have a short lifespan. Right.
Exactly.
In comparison to them.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So trip on this. So the theory, or according to, it's not even a theory, according to the tablets, these Sumerian tablets,
Right.
is that there was, the Greys, they're mentioned all the time in UFO lore or facts, whatever you want to fucking call it.
That's the person, the image that we've been given.
We always see
the big head
with the eyes.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and they smell like
Of an alien,
and they
yeah.
smell like cinnamon.
especially
supposedly
during this time of Halloween.
they smell good at least. Cinnamon. I swear to God, that's what they said they smell like.
Mm.
So the
I like
Greys,
cinnamon.
the Greys,
Takes the bacteria out your mouth.
listen, the Anunnaki, the Graves, the Graves, the Greys. I'll hit that motherfucker.
Hit that
were
shit.
a slave race to the Anunnaki, and they were mining gold because gold for the Anunnaki, it gave them life. That's why we revere gold, because we remember the gods had gold, right? And you look at kings and queens, and they have a crown. Crown in Spanish is corona, all right? The sun, that's what the rays of the sun are actually called, coronas. So a
Right.
crown on a king and queen is actually a sun. It's the rays of the sun.
Right, facts.
And because it's all due
You
to
can see it on the sundial.
it's all due to sun worship.
Like Jesus always has the sun behind him.
It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
Right.
It's sun worship. And the
Yeah.
Muslims worship, it's a lunar worship. That's why they have the moon, the crescent moon.
Right.
And the Jews have star worship, which is why they have the Star of David.
So in one of the tablets, Billy Carson was talking about the myth of Adapa, and he said the most wise of the Anunnaki, they were like translating, and he said he mentioned that the Anunnaki were us. So we are the Anunnaki. And then, of course, there's the book of Enoch that people bring the biblical terms, the fallen angels, So how do you feel about, are the Anunnaki still here among us? Are we gods and humans and we just don't know of our godly state? Or are we the Greys? Are we the slave race of a entity that is, over our head? Because another thing I was thinking about is they speak about future timelines that could exist in superposition to each other and multiverse timelines, basically to say like these people, the Anunnaki, they weren't stuck. They were masters of time.
Right.
They weren't stuck into our sequential
I understand.
one-way direction of time. So they can see things in a different way where past, present, and future is all one.
Absolutely.
And they can create ripples like in the space-time continuum that will affect future realities in this 3D world that benefits them. So are we that slave race being manipulated? And this isn't my thought. Again, this is forbidden knowledge from Billy Carson.
I love it.
I'm just throwing stuff at you.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, well, I don't know. But based on what I've read, here's what I do know. The Greys originally mined gold for the Anunnaki. Okay. They had a revolt, and what happened was there were two the chief deities, Anu. He had two sons, Enlil and Enki.
Okay.
And let's see, I believe it was Enlil. No, excuse me. Enki was an alchemist, and they took the blood of who was it? It was one of the Anunnakis, but I want to get his name right. It was like Kingu, because I was like, oh, it sounds like king. Yeah, they slayed Kingu, Kingu. Look that up, Kingu. And Anunnaki is spelled Anu, like Anu is the chief deity, and Naki, Nnaki. Look that up. Research for yourselves, please. So anyways, he was an alchemist, and he created mankind with the blood of Kingu. They killed him, and he didn't want to kill him, but they did. And they used the blood of Kingu, and they mixed it with Homo erectus. And that's how they came up with mankind. So when you hear stories about the missing link, that's your missing link. It was genetically engineered according to these clay tablets.
Right.
Okay. Now, let me hit this motherfucker. Here. Enlil was like really Enki was very proud of his creation because now mankind was mining gold in place of the Greys. You understand? But when the gold was mined, now they had a council, and they met, and that council decided the fate of mankind. And the two brothers had distinct differences.
Right. I believe Enki was the one that had the view of mankind as like, he was a sage. He was looked at as like a sage, right? The Adapa that I mentioned before, the myth of Adapa, was a sage, and God Ea was the equivalent to Enki. And then I think they say Enlil was Ankar, and that was the creator of evil, is what they say. So go ahead, like two distinct differences.
Right.
Yeah.
So Enki and Enlil have this huge fallout. It's a big problem. I'm talking war type fallout, because Enlil is like, all right, we got what we needed. We don't need these things anymore, right? And he's like, nah, man, not my creation. So in the Bible, there's the battle between the archangels. That's the battle between Enlil and Enki.
Got you.
Okay, and they're battling over the fate of mankind.
Because these stories have been retold.
Exactly.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, exactly. No, you hit the nail on the head with that shit. So, what I find really interesting is there is a few gods which directly relate to deities now that we are extremely familiar with. One is Manar. Another name for Manar was Sin. So the word Sin comes from this deity in Sumerian.
Right. The beginnings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Ishkur. Ishkur. You tell me what that sounds like. You know. Ishkur. Think of the Indians.
I'm drawing a blank right now.
Ishtar.
Oh yeah, the god, right?
Which is Easter.
Easter.
And
yeah,
we
Ishtar,
celebrate
yeah.
Easter.
Right.
So yeah, I found those. And then
yeah, I did come across that too when I was looking through some stuff.
what was cool was it's Halloween, and shout out to your wife, because she mentioned Halloween was such a big deal.
Well, she just told us to make sure we talk about it, because people are making it a big deal, like they always do.
Exactly.
They
Break
love
it
the
down.
idea to
Please
bring
do.
this stuff out.
Now, the council that I mentioned earlier had a specific name, and I want to say this name to you. Benet Elohim. Elohim rhymes perfectly with Halloween. Now, we've always been told that Halloween is a pagan holiday, Hallows Eve, which maybe it turned into Hallows Eve.
Right.
But I think Halloween and Halloween are so close. You love etymology.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's reason to look into that big time.
For sure.
It translates directly to the sons of the gods and goddesses. It's also mentioned in the 82nd Psalm. So, what? I know that you and I first started discussing this, like maybe like 15 years ago.
Right.
I don't know. What's your point? What's your stance?
What's my
on
take
it?
now?
Yeah, what's your take?
It's a lot, man. I'm always open to it. Ever since I heard about it, it went over my head at first, obviously, and you're like, that's sounds a little far-fetched, especially when you get into like, you know, the reptilian agenda, you know, and
I do indeed.
shape-shifting.
Yeah.
And you first hear about these things and you're like, no way. You have that denial. And then you do more research and you just study. And the thing I like about it is it demystifies it. The more reading you do, the more soul searching you do yourself, and why these things are even important to you and why they've been important to mankind. What story is trying to be told to us? Why are we not understanding it? Is it a control factor, you know? So a lot of things come into my head. You brought up the beginning of sin, and also what I came across, this was the beginning of country versus city. So this was some of the founding cities that we first knew in Mesopotamia. You know, these were city states, you know. So these are the beginnings of humans dealing with these ideals. And like I said earlier, nationalism and stuff like this, it comes into play because then it's about human rights or the rights of everybody or the good of all. And I think that's why we are where we are now, because there's a war being fought over our heads. So whether you believe these are fallen angels, Nephilim, reptiles, I think there is definitely something that's controlling the masses. So I just love learning more so I can know how to deal with this reality, because where people don't get it, they don't know why these things are important, is because, as you can see, we can make correlations from then to now. So that's why they tell you if you don't understand the past, you don't understand the present, and you can't understand the future, is because these people are living in a continuum where they're seeing all these things at the same time. So we're just trying to deal with it as it comes, and we're never stepping back to really look at, you know, a wider perspective. So that's my thought on that. And then the last, I would say, is writing. These were my personal thoughts. Now I'm not just going off of things that I researched. This is just my thoughts. So we started civilization. Because like you acknowledged, we're sure that humans had great achievements before so-called written history and civilization. So
we've been here 500 million years, bro.
Right.
And barely started 10,000 years
ago. And all we're talking
ago?
about, is the last 10,000 years.
There's no fucking way.
So writing led to reading, which leads to separation, because some can read and some can't.
Absolutely.
Just like even today.
But
back then it was probably even worse. Only the pastors or the kings.
Absolutely.
So
scribes.
I think the most, exactly.
I discussed that with you earlier.
The most powerful people were probably the priests at the time, which led to kings. So even today, behind the politicians, we still have kings and, you know, priests that have a lot of power.
Right.
And then also territorial kingdoms, trades and taxes, laws and codes. You know, you get into social order, and then all these things, the structure relies on there being an underclass,
right,
or poor. So like we always say, this shit is not by accident. None of this is this has been in play this is not a war in our lifetime. We think it's insurmountable because this thing has been going on since this is nothing
new.
You look at this shit, empires.
It's what it is, man.
And then when you get to empires, it's diverse,
right,
and it's multi-ethnic. So then you deal with the issues that we have to deal with now, and that's my thought on it, bro. So there's a micro and a macro. It's like, what do you do in the now to affect the change
that you want to have to see or you want to see? And then also, what do you pull from those times and these stories that are positive? Because obviously they're reoccurring themes in humanity, so they're there for a reason. So I don't just discredit them, you know, but I also realize there's some control factor, or they're used in a manner that controls humanity. And until we find a better source to guide us, then I think we're going to continue to be lost, because we continue to use the same old methodology, thinking that we're going to get a different result.
Yeah, that's called insanity. When you do the same thing over and over and expect different results, it's called insanity.
Empire after empire after empire.
So every 4 years when you cast that ballot, you know what I say voting is? It's a suggestion box for slaves. So if you want to go ahead and take part in that, you go right ahead and do that. But that candidate selected, and that's a whole nother story. We've touched on that a million times. But back to the Sumerian story of creation.
Back to this motherfucking shit we be talking.
Well, trip on this, bro. Is they who were the two? Let me hit that. Who were the two fucking people in the Garden of Eden?
You got Adam.
Yes,
and
you do.
got Eve.
You do indeed. Now check this out.
So much word magic, huh? Because is it atom, like an atom in your body?
That's what I'm getting to.
Atome, which is also some Egyptian something. Go ahead.
Now trip on this. So, here, dude. So, Eve was created by what? Do you remember?
A rib.
A rib. Do you know what rib translates to in Sumerian? Cell.
Nice.
Cell.
Good find.
Doesn't that make a lot more sense than a rib?
Definitely.
We took a cell from a man and made a woman. Makes a lot more sense, especially when you think about it in today's terms, right? Than a rib. The fuck did you do with the rib? Doesn't make any sense.
Wow, so they had a word for a cell back then?
Yes. Come on, bro.
Dropping bombs on them,
Yeah,
smooth.
doggy. Yeah. Now trip on this. The original word for worship, avoid. 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 And it literally translated to just work for it. And the Bible, what does it say? God helps those
that work for it, right?
that help themselves.
Yeah, that help themselves.
Exactly. Just work for it.
People done flipped it in this modern
Exactly.
time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just
bro.
like you praying, that's it. Taking your power away from you.
All right. Yeah. So now trip on this. So you got the Adam and Eve story, right? Now we already know that Africa was named after a general, a Roman general.
Yeah.
Africanus? Okay. That was his last name. You can look that up for yourself. So Africa is not the actual name of that continent. I'm not familiar. Look to Larry Gators. I believe he provides that information. Gators, Gaiters. But the original name of Africa, I do know that it translates to Eden. Okay, so we know then that is the true Garden of Eden. We know that according to these Sumerian tablets, that rib translates to cell, which is what they used from Adam. Now, what I want to touch on is what you brought up earlier, Adam. Now, we've been taught it's Adam, Adam, and Eve, Eve. However, according to these tablets, it's Adam, Atom, and Eve, Ev, which is an electronic volt. And let me tell you real quick, in physics, an electron volt, symbol EV, is the amount of kinetic energy gained by a single electron accelerating from rest through an electric potential difference of 1 volt in vacuum. Okay? Adam
and
Eve.
Spark, life.
Exactly.
They're giving you the story of creation. It's not...
Exactly.
Because we take it so literal. People take it so literal. Alkebulan. Alkebulan is the name of Africa before Africa.
And that translates to Eden,
yeah,
correct?
Yeah. The oldest
there you go. Look it up for yourself,
only
people.
Word of indigenous origin. It was used by the Moors, Nubians, and others, Carthaginians, Ethiopians.
Yeah, I trust
the
the
mother of
Ethiopians.
mankind, and Garden of Eden is the translation.
The mother of mankind in the Garden of Eden.
Mm-hmm.
And Ethiopia, we know that the oldest, as far as we can tell, the oldest human was found in Ethiopia. And her name is Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy is how many years old? Let's see. Lucy in Ethiopia. Let me look that up real quick. I don't want to give any wrong facts here. Doesn't say. Give me 1 second. Go
It's
ahead.
millions.
Nah, it's thousands.
Thousands?
Yeah. Oh, maybe the Lucy's. Oh, you're right. You're right. I stand corrected right here, brother. So check it out. Lucy is the common name of AL288-1. Several hundred pieces of fossilized bone representing 40% of the skeleton of a female of the hominin species. Hominin is another word for primates. Okay, so I cannot pronounce look this up on Wiki. In Ethiopia, the assembly is also known as Dinkinesh, which means you are marvelous in the Amharic language. Lucy was discovered in 1974 in Africa at Hadar, a site in the Awash Valley of the Afar Triangle in Ethiopia, by paleoanthropologist Donald Johansen of the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. The Lucy specimen is dated to about 3.2 million years ago.
Damn.
So what were we doing? That's older than I even thought. I thought it was 500,000 years ago. So 3.2 million years ago, you got Lucy in Ethiopia. What the fuck were we doing for basically 3.2 million years, bro? Where we barely had civilization fucking 10,000 years ago.
And then
I refuse it. I refuse to believe that, bro.
you ever think about the different blood types?
Absolutely.
And then like there's no real explanation as far as I know from like where the RH negative blood type comes from. And I think there's some explanation,
nice.
like it's similar to like monkey. It has like there's some ties to monkey.
I've read about it. Go.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it, but it's just like if we're talking about our genome or our cells and things being manipulated, and if there's gods and things that alter human life here on this earth, I think some of the things like the different blood types says a lot.
Absolutely.
And other people can probably expound on that. I don't think it's very common how in different species, how humans have different blood types like that.
Yeah.
And then, how it's like a rhesus monkey or something like that, I believe it is. So, yeah. And then I think, like you were saying, hominids and, even what's Neanderthals and stuff like that.
Neanderthal, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are hard to explain or people have different theories on. And that's what's cool about Kush and Chemtrails, because some people just take theory to mean it is what it is. Like, but a theory in definition means that it's the best explanation pretty much.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
That we have. It doesn't mean that it's fact. It doesn't mean that it's true. These are still theories. A lot of these things are theories.
Absolutely.
But even the people could probably argue that our translation of the Sumerian tablets is inaccurate.
Absolutely. I mean, you have Zechariah Sitchin and I forgot the dude's first name, but his last name was Gardner. They argued about everything. I mean, Sitchin thought the Great Deluge, the flood, was 11,000 BC, and Gardner thought it was 4,000. So
it seems like they all agree that there was some type of flood, though.
Absolutely. No, there's no denying. Most scholars agree the book of Genesis, like I stated earlier, is taken from the Sumerian tablets.
There's even debates over if the Egyptian, Meta Netter is translated properly. So a lot of these things that we even know about these cultures, we take for granted. But it's great, though, because there's still a lot. It shows that humanity still has a long way to go. And hopefully we go back to some of the simpler ways before maybe we got off track, because a lot of these things that we did are good,
Right.
But I think just like, what happens with any of us as, we learn and we grow, you learn when to pull back, or you learn when something becomes unproductive. You may have a way of doing it, and that's sometimes my big frustration with parenting and just dealing with humans in general. My wife knows I often have this thing where I just say, I'm done talking, because
I'm done kind of dealing with humans and cooperating all the time, because people just don't understand how to properly cooperate with each
Right.
other. It's a lost art, man.
It is.
I don't want to argue, you know what I mean? Like, and
It is a
let's
lost
get
art.
past our differences, you know, and let's build a better future. Like,
Absolutely.
what the fuck are we doing?
Absolutely.
You know?
You know what's interesting, brother? You know, the just touching back on the Anunnaki was, you know, Nibiru.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now that's the planet
Right.
that.
That's an interesting topic too.
Right. Okay, now
Because
trip
they
on
say
this.
it's coming back in our orbit, right?
They believe that it has an elliptical orbit. The planet Nibiru, for people listening or watching
Sirius,
on YouTube.
right? That's another name for it, is Sirius.
Is it?
Yeah, like
Oh,
the
that's
radio
awesome, then.
station.
That's even better.
Mm-hmm.
So check that out. Look up the correlation between those two. That's perfect right here, brother. That's good. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times you got to understand corporations are named, or people in charge. Well, with this knowledge, these people with elite status, with this knowledge, with this occultism, esoteric knowledge. You know, they reference it all the time in their businesses and whatnot. So that would,
And they call us occultists, but they're the ones that put it in all their symbols.
exactly.
I got to drive around and see it on the back of the cars.
Exactly.
And you're acting like it's not there. Like,
Speaking of back on the cars, is, you know, you look at Toyota and the logo for Toyota. What's interesting about Toyota, that fucking logo, it spells Toyota.
all these fuckers have rings on them.
Okay,
all of them.
it does. It spells Toyota. Did you know that?
The logo
You can make that You can make that fucking logo every letter in TOYOTA. You
in
can
there?
make that logo.
That's pretty interesting.
Okay, that's dope. But here's the spin on that. You know that they got it looks like two elliptical orbits. And to me, I've always taken it as that's their acknowledgement of Nibiru. You look at the Lexus logo, right? It's an L. It looks like an L, right? But it's got a weird shape to it, doesn't it? Kind of looks like a boomerang or a square. The Acura,
That vector too,
the Acura,
like NASA.
right? The Acura is supposed to be like a runway that goes forever, you know? But it looks like that. It's not. It's a fucking compass. And the Lexus is a square.
Those both could be vectors too, bro.
Square and compass.
Yeah.
For the Freemasons.
For sure.
Right? You look
With
at the
the
H.
Saturn rings
the
around
H
them.
in Honda. Okay? You know what that is?
What is it?
This.
Yeah.
The devil horns.
Pan.
Right?
That's what I wanted to talk about too when we were talking about Nibiru. I mean, not Nibiru, but the Nephilim and Anunnaki.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other gods. And then I think what they do nowadays is they put them all together. That's what we're seeing is a mishmash and a pishpodge of ancient tradition and gods and deities given to us now. And we think we're doing something righteous. We don't know that we're serving these same things that already been in play. Like the god Pan. He was the one that had the horns and was the half goat god, you know?
Right.
And that's what we come to know as the Baphomet. So a lot of these symbols are just being recycled.
Exactly.
So then when we fight against it, it looks like we're just being, you know, we're paranoid.
Right.
But it's like, no, you really don't understand.
Yeah, you have to understand that these symbols, they mean something. Because if they didn't possess any power, or if there wasn't any sort of recognition that meant something to these people, they wouldn't use them over and over and over. And you see it everywhere. Why does 13 appear everywhere?
Do as thou will.
Right?
Wilt.
Aleister
What is it?
Crowley.
Yeah.
Google that motherfucker. Aleister Crowley. Interesting individual. You should Google him and learn
But
more about him.
They're doing it, bro. They like to eat the cake. That's why I'm sad, Smooth, because I like to have faith and order and hope and all that good old shit. But I'm starting to think, what the fuck really does that matter? Because they feed off of that energy too. They're like, we feed off of the negative that we're pushing out there, and we
Right.
feed off of you fuckers that have this fake faith and hope and
Like at the Super
just
Bowl
like we said,
halftime show.
prayer and all of that.
Like at
you
the
know?
Super Bowl halftime show. Every year when they do the weirdest shit possible, and everyone's sitting there like, yay! And they're just charging up.
We're all getting this
They're
ritual.
just charging up their
Yeah.
fucking batteries, bro. What the fuck's happening at Bohemian
And we're all
Grove?
tuned in. We don't
What's-
know how much energy we're all giving our energy at the same fucking time. That's powerful, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you think it's powerful at church when you pray every Sunday with 100 people at mass, imagine if there's 100,000 people in the stadium and 100 million watching TV. How fucking powerful
Worldwide, yeah.
it is. Harness that energy and see what
Just
you
like
can
you
do.
said with the Olympics.
Yeah.
Which came from these, man, it's like when civilization happened,
that's when humanity went away from nature.
Right.
So we praise civilization and we praise these ancient cultures. And what I'm coming to learn is, but you're supposed to take the lessons too.
Absolutely.
And it seems like we don't learn the
why
lesson.
why were the past civilizations,
the fucking
they were
lesson.
so advanced in knowledge, but yet they steered away from technology. You look at these people, the people who, let's go to the pyramids. All right. Those are marvels. We're like, they're so marvelous, people don't even want to admit people built them. But it was people. It wasn't any fucking extraterrestrial force. It was people.
Could have been giants or Anunnaki.
People with knowledge, people with advanced knowledge.
Right.
And they could have very well have done it technologically if they desired to. But that's not what it's about. They had an understanding of nature and they worked with nature.
Right.
And they were more advanced than us, but they worked with nature. That's why those are built from nature. People are probably like, oh, well, if they were so advanced, why didn't they build a skyscraper? Because that's not natural. It's unnatural. It's a fucking wart on the surface
Fucking
of the
pyramid's
earth.
like a perfect.
Do you understand what I'm
piece
saying?
of
It's made from the earth.
And look at geometrically though too, like
You
it's
lined it
like
up with fucking the Orion's belt? Get the fuck out of here.
Crazy.
How the fuck did you do that? I can barely find that shit when I go outside at night. Like I look at all the stars, I'm like, I think that's the Big Dipper, I think that's Orion's belt, possibly. They built fucking structures aligned with it, bro. All over the fucking world. It's not just in Egypt. They did it all over the world. There was a network on the world.
Since you're talking about that, have you seen the pictures where they show the stars going around us in a perfect circular motion? Like, you know how they do time delayed pictures?
Yeah, like time lapse.
You could look up one, bro, after this and just. I know your son's watching this right now. Your son that's in college right now.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Here Buck goes
Jace.
again.
Jace.
But
He
it's in
sent
a-
me something the
In a
other day.
perfect circular motion,
He
bro.
sent me a text the other day.
The
I swear
stars
to
go
God.
around us.
He can't let
That's
it.
why the ancients revered the solar system and used it to guide their life. And we don't give a damn. But go ahead.
He can't let it go. He texted me the other day.
I love it.
And it's a picture of like the
The
earth.
fact that he can't let it go means
And
I have a point.
And it's like an arrow from Japan to America if the earth was flat. And he goes, according to flat earthers, this is the route they took to bomb Pearl Harbor. Of course, he ties it into World War II, right?
I love him.
I
for
love
that.
it, dude.
He's
It was
awesome.
sick, dude.
Shout out to him, man.
Shout out to Jace.
And thank you for having a thought. That,
Yeah, man.
And just
That's what it's
having
all about. Let's
care.
get that info.
I know he
Let's get that info.
He means well.
Come on, dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, buddy. But yeah, man, you look at like the creation of man and it's like, okay, well, look, let me touch on this first. I got to go here, bro. I got to.
Oh shit.
So let's talk
That's
about
where we lose our sponsors.
let's talk about the original man. Okay, I'm talking about black men, black women. Okay,
Or
and
you
let's-
can just say melanated.
melanated. Let's do that too. Whatever you want to do, brother.
Because black is kind of more modern. What was
Yeah.
it? Borders and all kind of names, man. Just
honestly,
melanated.
I love surface dwellers. That's my perfect one because then you had the cave dwellers, okay? And that's where I come in. Now, check it out.
Go
This is a theory, of course, but I feel like there's so much to substantiate these claims that I gotta say it. So you have the first known white race. The first time that they've been acknowledged that they've descended was from the Caucasus Mountains. Now you look at the word Caucasus, it's spelled exactly like Caucasian. All right. Now the Caucasus Mountains are just north of Iran. They were actually part of northern Iran at one time until the borders were drawn differently. Okay. Iran translates directly to Aryan. Okay. So
now you're cooking.
Yeah, so-
Sumerian, Aryan.
Orale,
going.
librarian, vegetarian,
Oh,
pescatarian. You can't stop it now, dog. The Freemasons have taken over. So check it out.
Hit them.
What was I talking about?
Aryans.
Oh, thank you. So the Aryans, they're the first documented, and that's where the term Aryan comes from, everybody. It was the Aryan Brotherhood, all that. It's the first known white race coming down. The first
This
tribe.
all goes down to lineage.
Exactly.
People are still holding on to that bloodline.
Have you seen the girl in the 80s from Afghanistan that was on the cover of National Geographic? She had like bright green eyes, blue eyes. Anyways,
Heather Locklear.
nah, dude,
Bro, I'm not good at
it's
celebrities.
an Afghan girl.
Oh, it's the Afghan girl. I'm sorry.
And she is
blonde hair and
no
blue eyes.
doesn't have blonde hair, blue eyes.
Oh, but you're making
she's
a point.
Afghan with
Yeah.
blue eyes.
Yeah.
She's on the cover of National Geographic.
Yeah.
She was a big deal back in the 80s. So that she is a descendant of that Aryan tribe.
Okay.
Okay, they had the blue eyes, and because
Right.
you know, you look at what happened. Okay, look, people, you got to understand, there was an ice age on this planet, and for at least 10 to 20,000 years, people who were trapped in that ice had to seek shelter in subterranean dwellings and or caves. Okay, and that's why you find these like cave structures that are like fucking massive all over the fucking world, where like they're like, yeah, you could house 50,000 people in there. Why the fuck would you house 50,000 people underground unless you absolutely had to, right?
Yeah.
So think about it. I've seen stories with the Russians have taken these Arctic foxes. They're fucking black, right? And they take them and they put them in in Siberia, okay? Guess what color they turn? White.
Right.
Okay, so you got these people who obviously, right, were probably, in my personal opinion, I think this, for me, it works for me. They were black. They were surface dwellers. They were melanated, okay? They got caught in these horrible weather conditions, okay? They retreated, subterranean dwellings, caves, okay? They come out. Now, if you don't get enough sun, you develop what's called rickets disease. Okay, and your bones become like rubber, and they just bend. It's really bad. Now,
Rickety.
Exactly. So if you're black or melanated, and you already deflect the sun, because that's what you're supposed to do as a surface dweller.
Absorb the sun.
But you feel what I'm saying? That the melanin helps protect you.
See.
Okay, now it's a problem because there's not enough fucking sunlight getting to you. And you develop rickets. So in order to survive, they would have had to adapt.
I follow.
Okay? So instead of evolution, let's call it adaptation. They would have had to adapt. Okay. So in addition, we've talked about how the hair, okay, hair on black men, black women, natural hair is
Kinky,
spherical.
coiled.
Yeah, but coiled to allow heat to
Curly.
escape from the head.
Yeah.
Okay, because we got to keep our brains cool.
Mhm.
Okay. Now we also have to keep our brains warm. So for white men, white women, whatever, with straight hair, it grows more of like a mop, like a blanket to keep you warm. And that's because of the weather conditions. This is my personal opinion. These are things that I've read, things that I've heard, and I think it makes sense to me. Okay. Now, over time, I've seen miners, people who mine, go into caves and come out after months. Okay, I didn't see them personally. I saw them on TV, and they were completely different. Their shade of skin, all that. So you have this race of beings that for years had to survive on like a crazy level, bro. Almost like animals. Because imagine, like, you wouldn't even have that. What affords us the ability to be philosophical is comfort. There's no fucking comfort in that condition.
Right.
So that's what Nick Cannon refers to when he talks about animals. Because you had to live like a fucking animal to survive those conditions.
Now it's been flipped.
Exactly. So it's not anything bad. It's not like, yo, man, we are animals. It's like, yo, bro, you had to live like an animal to survive those conditions. Okay? Now, think about the overall mind state of those people coming out of the caves when the ice age subsided. They would have been fucking nuts, bro. Nuts. And that's why it's also my personal opinion, and people can call this self-white hate. They can call it whatever it is.
It's a theory.
I call it me studying and the anger, the hatred, the war, the everything that is caused on this planet typically reverts back to some fucking white people. Why? And it's almost like it's in the DNA. Mm-hmm. And I don't say this to be like a self-white hate. I just got to understand where it comes from. We've talked about fear of a black planet. Mm-hmm. Because if you take a step back, the white race is a flash in the pan on this planet, bro. It cannot survive. You had children with a Latina, and your children look more black than Latino. You understand what I'm saying?
So?
I think so, 100%. Absolutely.
I be wondering sometimes.
Absolutely. The strongest genes are a black woman. Second strongest to that are a black man.
Yeah.
Period.
That's facts.
Period.
That's scientific.
So
Yeah.
over time, if there is this subconscious desire to get back to the natural way, I've discussed with you, why do fucking people always copy blacks? Black music, black culture, black entertainment, everything. And you were like, dude, I got a theory about that. Because it's reverting back to its natural course. And that's what will happen over time. And that's where you get like Public Enemy's album, Fear of a Black Planet. Some people are fucking scared of that. I don't really give a fuck if in 10,000 years from now my whole family's black or melanated or what. I just don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter to me, right? Color's a reflection of light off objects, and it doesn't really make a difference. But overall, I think that theory pretty much gauges where the white race comes from and why at times the elites fear black empowerment, because originally they call black savages. Right? But are you kidding me? The original civilization is black. Period.
Maybe, too, I think about the Moors. They say that civilized some of Europe and Spain, and even the Moors are still revered in some of those areas, and
Absolutely.
some of the deities are black, you know. But maybe they subjugated some of those Caucasian or non-melanated humans, and some of that was a part of the animosity too, because you can't take, you know, everything has a little bit of both on it. So yeah, they educated them and gave them some knowledge, but maybe they were called savages at some point, you know. So now what I look at it as, they turned around and flipped it. So now, and they took the history and they made it into, yeah, you guys are uncivilized and you guys are savages now. We've advanced beyond you almost. So now we have to educate you. So it's almost like the pupil is now trying to take over as the master, or has taken over as the master. And another 2 cents I want to throw at you is like with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Right.
He has similar teachings, you know, when he speaks on Yaqub, or could be Jacob, you know. And I think earlier you said Moses, but I meant to say Abraham. Abraham is the one that's cited as the, you know, the father of the three,
I believe so,
major religions.
That's
right?
why they're
See,
called
I'm not
like
very good at religion.
or something
Abrahamic
like
religions.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify,
Yeah.
because I know my auntie might be watching, and
Right.
she's, you know, she knows her stuff. But I need to learn from people like her though, because she's been back to like Palestine and done like
Oh, that's amazing.
the walks, you know, in like Mecca, you know. So
That's
just
wow.
like when
That's incredible. She went to Mecca?
for sure, yeah.
That's amazing.
Her husband's from Pakistan, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
That's
then,
amazing.
So then
Is that
so their kids are
the one that
Pakistani
commented
and black.
on the Yasmin?
Yeah, shout out to Monty.
Yasmin Muhammad? Yasmin Muhammad, shout out.
All
Thank you
love.
so much for your support.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you took your shoes off to the last episode and got grounded on the Earth's energy grid.
That was beautiful.
It was indeed.
Picture us being abroad though, doing this pod, bro, because that's what I'm saying. Like, we have a great mindset now, and we haven't even been abroad.
Haven't even touched the
I'm tired of
surface.
talking about stuff we really, as Americans, don't know about.
Exactly.
And that's what the rest of the world probably looks at us as, is like very uneducated. But America's also awesome because of the power of the black people here, but because America has a way of projecting something to the world and having a way to make the world believe in like that whole what was it?
It's called marketing,
this
bro.
This is the tree on top of the hill, or the gold.
We invented PR.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know who invented PR?
The paved with gold, and you know, people come here looking
You
for
know who Sigmund Freud
opportunity
is?
and shit
You know who
like
Sigmund
that.
Freud is,
Me and you
right?
talked about that. Yeah.
Sigmund Freud's fucking
This
nephew.
is a game, baby.
His nephew invented PR. So his nephew got a little psychological game from his uncle and was like, man, I know how to fuck these people over mentally.
People have been running game on us for a long game on game on game.
Millennials.
On game on game on
Millennials.
game. So yeah, it's good to get up
And
on
not-
game.
Or millennium, I should say, not millennials. Millennials are these little fucking weirdos running around.
And then how do you use that? That goes into that 5%er stuff.
Oh, man. Shout out to the 5%ers.
Because what do they say? 85 or
85% of
deaf,
the people.
dumb, and blind?
Yeah, 10%.
Sheeple, we call them.
10% rule the world, and then 5% are trying to free the 85%. is the story behind there.
Yeah, like 15% have knowledge of self and knowledge of all this alchemy you're talking about and this ancient knowledge.
But 10% of that
Choose
15%
to use that, for
it-
their own benefit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that leaves the 5% who are trying to
Persuade more people to come join our side.
educate the 85% and
If
free
that
them.
law is true, though, and I don't study their beliefs, but if that law is true per se, then it tells me that we should learn how to, with the 5%, beat the 10%. Because we keep on trying to convince the 85% to join us, but that hasn't worked. That's why the numbers keep at the same, just like black numbers keep
That's a
at
good point.
13%.
That's a
Even
good
though
point.
me and you just talked about in previous episodes all the reasons why black population is down, but nobody talks about that.
They don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
They don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to acknowledge it's a horrible truth, bro.
Yeah, man.
It's a terrible truth. No one wants to acknowledge
The
no one
whitewashing.
wanted to acknowledge that the Jews were being gassed.
Right.
They just turned the other cheek, and it's the same thing, you know.
Black people
If it doesn't affect
on
you
their skin.
directly,
to whiten their skin,
You know?
even in Africa, in something they should be proud of. They trying to whiten their skin.
yeah, man. If you've ever had a fucking really bad sunburn, or if you got a bunch of freckles like I do, my fucking head looks like a burnt tortilla, bro. All these brown spots on my head, dude. You know what those are? You know what freckles are? Pockets of fucking melanin.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers
Coming to the surface,
trying
huh?
to be black again.
It's
I'm
coming
a
out.
straight up wannabe, bro.
Never that.
I'm a Rachel Dolezal.
Damn it, man.
Remember Rachel Dolezal?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, fucking broad.
There was a new one that came out recently too. Another one that was a professor. I ain't even gonna look her up and say her name.
She pretending like she was
We
black.
already said anybody could be whatever they want. Remember, you acknowledged that, bro.
She pretended she was black.
People are born certain ways, or they have the ability to identify with what they want to identify with now.
man.
This is a
I gotta look this fucking broad up. I'm
Hey.
sorry, dude.
All I gotta say, Smooth, is if the things that we read and believe in, the agendas that people are trying to push forth, where they're trying to confuse all the norms of society and up is down and down is up, they're doing a fucking great job, aren't they? All the stuff we read about that was coming, and now you look around and now there's no norms anymore. They wanted no norms, so here we are, man.
They got it.
Chaos. What is
Oh
it?
my god.
Yeah.
White U.S. professor Jessica Krug admits she has pretended to be black for years. Bro, this bitch is white as fuck, bro.
And we keep falling for it.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Columbus.
Jessica Krug, an
We keep falling for the
activist,
same
an
shit.
activist who teaches African American history, writes Medium post apologizing for false identity. What the fuck, dude?
I'm at a loss for words. Man.
Why would you do that? It's weird, bro.
Man, give us something to grow on.
How do
before
you
we
even
get outta here.
apologize? Why don't you just disappear? Seriously, that's fucking cuckoo.
I don't even know
I don't
what to
accept
say.
your apology. You're fucking weird, bro. Get the fuck out of here.
Dave
You-
Chappelle did it the best when he pretended to be Asian. I feel Asian today,
That was funny as
Oh,
fuck,
man.
bro. He said my wife hates that shit. I was like, and you know it'd be funny too if I pretended that shit. A black dude to pretend I was Asian. That fool was like, "What you doing today?" I was like, "Oh, bro, that was fucking funny."
man.
The old identifiers.
Because all you can do is laugh at us, man. This shit is insane, man. And then I just start to think, man, I hope this is just a simulation. Because it tells a better story than if this is reality for real. And this is something that this is what we want to spend our life doing, But since we're here, I hope you're enjoying the show, baby.
That's so bizarre because you remember when we'd be on tour and weird shit would happen. Like we would talk about some shit and then it would happen and we started fucking around because we were first kind of like into the simulation theory about 7 years ago, whatever. And we were like, it's the programmer.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm serious,
The programmer,
bro.
that's
What
we
if
would
it
call
is?
him.
Yeah, instead of God, we called him the programmer. Because what if it is some motherfucker programming
That's what all these
information?
stories are trying to tell us, Smooth, because we look at them as they're outside of us, but it's
Right.
really telling you a story about you, you
Yeah.
know? And we don't look at
Absolutely.
it that way, and we misinterpret
Bro,
it, and we
every
fight over
religion-
it.
Let me say this, brother.
All of them are trying to give you something. All our ancestors were trying to
Every-
drop jewels to us.
Every religion, even Christianity, if you really study it, not what you take people's words for and not none of that bullshit, all of them profess that God is within us, bro. He's within us. He's within us. You don't need to look to the sky. You don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Just look in the mirror, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it all has to, it all correlates with things like The Secret, Law of Attraction.
Exactly.
Right? And
See how that just happened? I didn't say it. I was thinking it, and you fucking said it.
And they don't want you to know that.
Yeah.
They don't want you to know how connected we are, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a fucking problem. I've always talked about punk rock music and hip hop music, you know, and how, you know, punk rock is very anti-authoritarian, and then you have like certain hip hop music, like back in the day, you know, some now too, but definitely Dead Prez and Public Enemy and very socially conscious, fucking black empowering fucking music, right? They didn't want the two to merge. So you have on one hand, blacks were fed a stereotype of whites listening to punk rock or metal or whatever, that they were like these fucking satanic Nazis. Right. And then on the other hand, the whites are fed these stories that these fucking blacks are fucking crazy drug dealing gang members
coming for your
and
women.
So everyone's avoiding each other until, bro, I gotta be honest, because I lived it. Hip hop music, like really the rise of hip hop music, and it got everybody together to a point now where it's like hip hop culture. It's no longer
because they squished the music.
The younger kids are more on like, it's not really, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it seems more like instead of black, white, Hispanic, so on and so forth, it's hip hop culture.
Yeah, the culture did.
That's what
do
they're
a lot,
into
more than anything.
Yeah, bro.
To unite.
Exactly.
But they gutted the message. But
they indeed gutted the message.
Still.
But it did. At least it did that.
Yeah.
And I did see that. You know, the dressing. You see motherfucking kids with fucking dreads and fucking braids, and everyone's sharing. Then you see the black kids with their hair all colored and with the fucking like kind of more of a punk rock vibe. It's all merged, bro.
I'm proud of hip hop because it was going a weird way too, and I think some of the OGs stepped in and was like, "Yo, it's incumbent upon us to speak on some of these things because if not, it's just gonna continue to be manipulated." And these kids were calling the OGs out like, pretty much like, hey, y'all left us. Like, y'all didn't give us the game. Y'all was more so competing with us because y'all, when the things changed and the internet came and the young kids kind of had the more advantage.
Yeah.
The OGs wasn't necessarily just open arms, you know?
Not at all.
I love how it's coming now, though, where the OGs have a space still and a following and, you know, things like the verses and they're getting their appreciation. But then the young people have a space and it can coexist. It doesn't, because that's another divide and conquer, you know? And the thing I wanted to speak on earlier, I'm glad I just thought about it, is scarcity versus abundance. They get us all into this mind state of scarcity where we're all pitted against each other. Especially that's kind of one of the tenements of capitalism. And me and you going to get into that another day. Capitalism, democracy,
we will indeed.
Theocracy, and, you know, republics,
plutocracy,
because
aristocracy.
A lot of these things we think are true, but in the Constitution, it don't mention democracy. You know, it doesn't mention capitalism and these ideals that we see, you know, as
fundamentally American.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. So you got to get into the fine, you know.
You better get into the fine print of any contract, especially the Constitution.
People of scarcity make decisions based on scarcity. So we got to come to a place where we're all making decisions based on the abundance of life and love and prosperity. But, you know, that's a battle I think that humanity maybe has been designed with, because it's the good and the evil. I believe that we're God experiencing himself in the flesh, and there is a battle bigger than us than we can understand. And you can't have one without the other. Me and you have explained and you know, kind of talked about that. So you just got to kind of pick what side you on.
Right.
And everything you do may not always produce good, but if you make a mistake, be humble enough to admit your mistake and do better. That's it, man. You know, like the universal laws is bigger than us, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
I agree, man.
Man. Out.
Man.
Let's get out,
This
man.
was a real one, dog.
Like
I
we
love
do,
it.
man.
Cheers
like
up. Hey, everybody out there listening, everybody watching on YouTube, thanks so much. We really appreciate your support, man.
All the time, man.
All right, my brother.
Appreciate
I'll see you next week, man. All right, bro.
Kush And Chemtrails.
We out. Later.
Kush and Chemtrails, the world's most dangerous podcast.